program is to, like I said, assist people who choose West Point as their final resting place. And we're a resource for things like receptions and florists and bagpipers and really anything that you can come up with, we can find a resource for it. But more importantly, we try to connect the family with West Point, especially if they've never been there before. We might take them by the last quarters if the family served there and early on before the kids were little, or they might not remember they were born there, but they don't remember ever living there because they were so young. Or if there was a specific sport that their grad participated in, we'll go by that athletic area. Anything that we can connect them to West Point, to the shared memories that they've heard about growing up. And then just make it, as I said, a little bit easier for the family to get through a difficult day. And just for housekeeping purposes, in case you don't know, there is plenty of room in the West Point Cemetery. Last year, they finished a expansive new area for casketed burials. And so we have plenty of space in what used to be, when you guys were there, likely the PX, right, back in the day, or perhaps the gas station for those going way, way back. And we haven't actually gone into that area yet, but what it has given us is essentially space for literally the next 100 years. And so if your classmates or people you're talking to at different events are saying, oh, I heard there's no room, or you have to be of certain rank, all of that has gone away. We have plenty of room, and the columbarium wall goes around the entire cemetery, as well as in the new section, there's a new wall. And we're only in the second section of the wall. So there's literally thousands of spaces for people. And so the second program or aspect of the Memorial Support Program evolved out of these conversations with people. And that is what Amy's putting up now, and that's the pre-planning checklist. And we all know that we need to have a book or a binder or a box with our information in it. But what's really scary is how many people that I talk to that don't know where their loved one's DD-214 is, or don't know what their final wishes are. They know they wanted to be at West Point. They don't know if they wanted a chapel service, or if they wanted a reception, or if they wanted classmates or no classmates and just immediate family. And so what I would encourage you all to do when you're talking to your classmates is tell them about this pre-planning checklist. I worked on this for more than probably close to 3 years, and I resourced many other classes that have a similar document. The class of 77 has a 150-page one that they update annually, and they were very open to sharing with me. So we took some elements from all of those different ones. There was about a dozen different ones out there, and we tried to combine it. It's not everything, but it's a lot, and it's a good starting point. And we convened some focus groups to help us with this. And one of the things that they couldn't stress enough is that there can never be enough information. And there's so much to think about, which I'm sure you've all sadly been touched by death. There's so much to think about, whether it's a parent, a sibling, a spouse, a partner, whatever the case may be. So any little thing that can be written down, any thought that you have, is helpful. And it takes one less thing off their plate. And it's so overwhelming to sit down and start doing this. So what I like to suggest, and I know some of you have heard this before, is take your phone out, especially if you're in the car for a long ride, and hit that little notes app or an email or the voice recorder. They all have the little microphone there, and just start talking. talk about what your vision is for your final day. Talk about what you want or where you want to be, or do you want to be cremated or casketed? Do you want a chapel service locally where you are because you've lived in the same place for 30 years since you retired, or you haven't lived in the same place very long, and so you only want to do everything at West Point? Nobody will know unless you tell them. And the other good thing that you can start with your phone is a love letter to your partner, to your children, to anybody that meant something in your life. And I'm telling you this because you're signed on to this call, but I'm very, very happy to get on with your individual classes. Some of them I've done already, but I'll get on and talk with people and answer questions about this, and what people can do just to make it a little bit easier for those who are left behind. So that's the second phase of the Memorial Support Program. This pre-planning checklist is available two different ways. You can download it from our website where Amy's showing. The important thing to remember there is if you do download it, you need to save it to your computer, because otherwise if you go off a page, you'll lose what you've already put in. So you save it to your own computer. Nobody has access to it, but whoever has your password to your computer, which is hopefully one of the things that you put in your pre-planning checklist, is your password. But, and the other method is to fill out the form, and we will send you just a checklist or a checklist and a binders to start collecting all of those documents that your family needs. So that is pre-planning. And Amy, if you want to scroll down, we already talked about West Point interment, choosing West Point as your final resting place or your loved one's final resting place. That is another booklet that's there that answers a lot of questions that are West Point specific. Before we go on to that last thing, I'll just say a lot of people want to know basic information like, can they be buried if can their spouse be buried first if they predecease them? And the answer is yes. Will the cemetery take a reservation? No. In theory, the first phone call is after passing to the cemetery. However, if somebody ever wants to have a conversation with us, we're very happy to talk about everything that I've already talked about one-on-one. It's very helpful that we schedule time to talk about whether it's West Point or just pre-planning in general. A lot of it translates to wherever you want to be your final destination. And so so the booklet is there for West Point specific questions and also for the pre-planning checklist. And then the third area that I want to talk about was also born out of really when we're saying goodbye to people on the sidewalk after doing a funeral at West Point. And you're at this awkward moment of, what do you say? Oh, so West Point's been a part of your life forever, and now you just left your loved one with us, so how do we stay connected? Well, we created the Survivor Community Outreach just for that purpose, to keep our grads and the spouses, children, siblings, parents, and all relatives of our grads connected to West Point. Because while you all know the deep commitment that most of you have to West Point, when you lose a loved one, especially if it's your partner or a parent or a sibling, or God forbid, a child, then those create two even stronger bonds of a love for West Point and loss. And those two paths intersect and they connect people in a way like nothing else does. So West Point does that first and foremost. I'm speaking to the choir here, right? West Point commitment like nothing else in the world. And then loss. And so I am fortunate that I am not walking that path, but it's my privilege to connect people who are with others who know that things like a widow's brain is a real thing, and that some days you can't do anything but put one foot in front of the other and call that your biggest accomplishment. And so there's comfort in that connection. And again, we had many, many focus groups. The first one led us to 43 different ideas of things to do. And that included the pre-planning checklist, but primarily it was a focus on how to connect this unique group of people. And they shared with us that while there can never be enough connection to classmates, to their spouses' classmates, to their parents' classmates, there's also an appropriate time and place to make that connection. For example, some of our spouses will say, oh, and this classmate called me and said he wants to take me to lunch. And I'd never heard of him before, and I'm not going to lunch with him. And so we've discovered some ways and some suggestions that we can share with your classes to say, okay, send all of the well wishes and notes to one person. And then that one person can reach out to the surviving partner or the survivor or the family and say, hey, we have these messages, and when you're ready to receive them, let me know. And just that one person can be that connection, and it makes it more manageable, especially right after the passing occurs. Now, each situation is different, and somebody might want them all at once. Somebody might want them immediately. But in most cases, it needs to be spaced out because they're dealing with things like picking out a casket or sending their loved one to be cremated or horrible things that nobody wants to deal with. And so when this comes in, it brings a little bit of sunshine into a dark moment. But when it comes at the wrong time, it's just one more thing. Or when somebody calls and says, let me know what I can do for you. That's putting the burden on the person who already has a long list of things they have to do. That's putting the burden on making you feel better on them. So instead, you could do things like when you lose a classmate and you get on one of these Zoom calls, you hit record and start talking about that person. Start sharing the stories, start sharing the antics that you had when you were cadets or when you were on the team together or whatever the memory is. And then those are the most priceless gift that you can give a family, whether it's the children, the spouse, the grad, just even when they've lost their husband or wife, just to know that you're thinking of them and you're having these fond memories and you can send that to them, that lasts way longer than flowers and a card. That is something that they will cherish and go back to year after year, and they'll share it with their grandchildren and their family. So things like that. Your class can set up a commo calendar to make sure that nobody is sitting home alone all day, not talking to anybody, right? I'm sure that people think about inviting them to a watch party or to a Founders Day locally that you might live near somebody. But if you could think about it in putting yourself in their shoes and say, okay, they just lost their partner of 30 years. And now they're going to come to this event for the first time on their own. How can I make that better? Can I pick them up? Can I send a young grad that is coming to our society that I know that lives locally and put those two together to share stories? Maybe somebody's too old to drive, so pick them up, or even just meet them in the lobby so they don't have to walk into the room for the very first time by themselves, right? So those are some things that we've learned from other classes, best practices, other societies' best practices, and from our survivors themselves. We are very excited next week to have our inaugural event for the survivor community. And this was a very, I don't want to say quiet, but it was a soft rollout, which is why it was not highly publicized. It is the first time that we're doing it at West Point. We have formed a partnership with TAPS, the organization, Tragedy Assistance Programming for Survivors. They are the grief experts. And we have an agreement with them, and they are going to handle our programming for us. And so they're going to join us next week at this event. It's a 2-day event in conjunction with Veterans Day. And the first group to be invited were the 4,000 surviving grads and the surviving spouses of grads. And that was intentional because TAPS, as the expert said, start small and get the first one under your belt. And so that's what we're doing. That's why it was not, as I said, promoted publicly. It was in first call, but it wasn't like shouted from the rooftops. And that was done by intention for this very first one. I'm very happy to say we have 28 survivors that are coming in from all over the country, and they're bringing 11 what we call guests, but I call technically they're also survivors, right? 6 of them are grads that are the survivor. They've lost their spouse. And others are the surviving spouse and family members. We have one caretaker that is coming with the surviving spouse. And so we're very excited. I think it's going to be very meaningful for everybody who's in attendance. Some other things that you as class leaders can do or share with your care person. TAPS was going to do dedicated West Point webinars on grief. We'll have at least 6 dates to announce by next week that we'll share with this group, and then we'll send out publicly with the dates and the topics. And that's where we're starting. One of those will be Sue Irons, who I'm sure you're all aware. Sue is our Veteran Services Liaison for AOG. So she'll do one of the webinars, and these will be general to any survivor based on topic. And we'll take 5 different topics plus Sue, because Sue crosses over to everything. But the webinars could also be done for a class, right? If you have enough interest and enough, could be 30 people, could be 10 people. They're also experts in developing peer-to-peer counseling. So if you have someone in your class who is starting out, or a seasoned care coordinator or widow liaison, they can work with them to do peer-to-peer, I don't want to say counseling, but how to connect them with others, right? Peer-to-peer connecting. I know Brandy Peasley had connected 4 class of 94 surviving spouses just through text. And these 4 women had lost their husbands suddenly, some of them to illness, some of them, and one to suicide. And they had those 2 bonds that I mentioned earlier, and they became each other's rock. And we sadly don't have the bandwidth to do that, but TAPS does, and they can help your care coordinators to make those connections with your classmates. And so I'm very, very excited about everything that they bring to the table. They're going to come to the class leader conference and do additional sessions with the care coordinators or whoever wants to attend on how to work with your survivor community. And so there'll be more to come. The one event that we will be shouting from the rooftops, I have a verbal commitment, so I'm running with it. And that is next year, the week leading up to 4th of July, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Conveniently, the 4th of July falls on a Saturday in 2026. So people will arrive on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. We will have programming for all levels and demographics of survivors and kids, including kids. So we'll have programming for 2 days, and then on Saturday morning, we will join in things like the 5K and all of the family events that happen at West Point, associated with 4th of July. And then that evening, we'll have specific special seating for our survivor community to be together to see the fireworks. Not that it'll be prime seating, but I'm thinking it might be pretty good seating. And so that will be the big launch that we do. And we'll just keep building that to lead up to it. And hopefully that will become an annual event at West Point. We're thrilled to be affiliated with TAPS, and they're also equally as thrilled and excited to be affiliated with West Point. So I predict a long and beneficial relationship with them and any other groups that would like to also engage this wonderful survivor community, because I know there's many other organizations out there. So that is memorial support in a nutshell. I hope for my returning attendees, you learned something new. I would like to embellish on what Amy said in the beginning, and that is I have recently been tasked with some new responsibilities in addition to funerals and pre-planning and the survivor community. Namely, we have the Veteran Services. I'll be working closely with Sue, and some other programs to include. We're going to launch a miniature program to hopefully invite those who would like to donate their miniatures. We currently have 21, but more importantly, I'd like to hear in those women's own words, if they're still with us, their story. And there'll be I think, the architect says yes. We have a renovation that's going on at Herbert Hall, and they tell me that I'll have space in what will be a display case, and we'll be able to have a QR code, and we'll be able to record those stories in those ladies' own words. And so I'm very excited about that. We also have the AOG travel program. Have any of you ever gone on a trip with AOG travel programs? Michael, you have? Anybody else? Yeah, it is woefully under promoted. And so we have currently 5 and others that have requested to partner with us on trips. And some of them are very, very fancy. And some of them are, going down the Cape, which from New York is, a few hours, but you're going on a bus together. But they will do things for an entire class, 30 people, 60 people. Some of them have these small, beautiful river cruise boats that they will book entirely for your class. And so the potential there is really untapped. And they've all offered to do a webinar for your classes if you would like to schedule something like that, to talk about planning a trip just for your class, which I think is great. And then we have our associate members for when the grad dies, our surviving spouse automatically becomes an associate member. But again, it's about the timing that we tell them that and what that actually means and what those benefits are and are they valuable. And so Sue Irons will help us out with that and making sure that they are actually a benefit that somebody can use. And so we'll be embracing our associate members. Obviously, we still have the Rockbound Highland Home Grad Insider Tour. We're hoping to expand that and work with the Academy. General Gilland has invited people to sit in classrooms, and you can't just show up and do that. That takes some planning. And so we're hoping to work with the Academy so that when somebody says, yeah, I want to attend a class when I'm there, we can facilitate that. And so different member services to accent, what's the word I want? Enhance the alumni experience. That is what I've been tasked with. I'm very, very excited about it. I learned a lot doing over 400 funerals over 6 years at West Point. And I want to take that experience and cross-reference it and overlap it with these other programs. I'd love to see a survivor travel program. One of our travel partners doesn't have a solo travel premium. And so I think, well, wouldn't that be great for our survivors to go on a trip together, right? Not that we'd be matchmaking or anything, but you know how that happens sometimes. No, I'm kidding. But okay, so I have talked, I think, for enough time. Does anybody have any questions for me? Make one up, somebody, please.
This is Don Knowles, and I'll go to you had this Sallyport activation and stuff, and we I'm the admin for the class of 76, and I've been working with Stephanie on and off, but actually contacting, we send out an email using the campaign thing, and we still can't figure out if the surviving spouse got it or not, and trying to get just how we know. We don't want to be heavy-handed and keep going back at them. And I've got like one of my roommates was one of the deceased, and we thought we had, there's one's going to work well. She doesn't do email anymore. Yeah, we're
Mhm.
just all old enough we can do that. So if any suggestions you might have, and I'll throw that with the, maybe a draft letter for Sallyport admins to send out as an introductory type thing that says what you want, and with the touchy feely thing, the TAPS guys might say that we could include, but just
Okay.
trying to reach out, because it turned out we actually found we had one classmate who met his wife, had kids after he got out of the military, and his wife didn't even know he was entitled to anything. She didn't know what a DD 214 was, and the classmates were getting together, and she was shocked. She didn't really understand that her husband had gone to West Point, and we were
Mhm.
surprised, but we should be prepared for something like that. So any suggestions you could have like that, but we're we're finding Sallyport for our class because we're in our 70s now. It's slow to get a response uh, from even our own classmates, let alone the surviving spouses. So any hints you can give or suggestions to make that, because it's a good tool to use because it's not Facebook. There's more
Right.
control, but getting them to open the door to let us do stuff.
Okay, I think it's about communication, which we can certainly improve, and just getting the word out that we want to share and connect and support and not sell you anything and not ask you for anything. We just want to give. And I think that's the messaging that we need to work on. Sallyport is obviously a love-hate relationship for people. And we have our survivor group on Sallyport, the survivor community. But it's misleading too, because we don't want to include our surviving spouses. So it says, oh, there's 37 members, which is not accurate. We have over 100 that have said, yes, I want to join. And so I think we'll see some improved communication. We'll definitely be focusing on it. I wrote down what you were saying. I agree with everything that you say. And it's just about getting the word out. And I think with this new survivor community, I don't want to make an excuse, but now that I've pulled away from doing funerals, I can focus on it more. I have two full-time people that are focusing now on funerals. And so I was trying to do it around funerals and around creating a pre-planning checklist. And so my bandwidth is expanded. And so I hope to offer some improvements.
And I don't know if the reunion folks would like to hear this, but our 50th is coming up in May of 2026. And you start a reunion, there's a packet when you register, and maybe a printed up flyer that mentions all this so they don't have to
Mhm.
go log in. So, but that I think would be a great place to include some information. Uh,
100%. And what I want to create, I'm glad you brought that up, is what I'm calling a menu. And it's for classes to do things like one-on-one webinars, but also for the reunion chairs to say, listen, if you want us to, we can partner with you and do a survivor breakfast or a survivor tea or something before you leave the hotel in the morning to come to that memorial service to introduce people again, so they're not walking in alone. Especially sometimes I'll hear people say, oh, I just came for the memorial service. And they're not staying for the reunion when they'd be totally welcome at the reunion and they would benefit and meet people that knew their loved one. You know, normally it's a parent that they're there, but we're going to create this menu of things just under that same thought process of letting people know what we can do, what we can partner with you on, and make it hopefully a little bit easier to find.
Thank you.
Sure.
Barbara, a couple of things. Just on the reunion stuff, you know, we had 2 half-hour sessions one of the nights where we invited different people in to talk about different subjects like continuing care, retirement communities. We did medical things, did a whole bunch of subjects. But for those that wanted to participate, they could come in and learn something. And I invited AOG people on occasion to brief their programs as well. Now to the travel stuff. Did 2 things. AOG is teamed with the World War II Museum.
Mhm.
So I took my class to Normandy, 8 days, 24 venues. I was pushing on an age. We were tired. But it was
Yeah,
a
that's a
wonderful
lot.
trip.
Mhm.
And World War II Museum put wonderful docent and a trip manager. Everything worked well. Based on that, I took the class down to the World War II Museum, and they treated us extremely well. There's a hotel right on premises, and Lisa there made sure everything flowed really well.
Great. Thank you for that endorsement.
Barbara, can
And-
I ask a question?
Sure.
It's Barry Morton.
Yeah,
speaking.
nice to see you.
And you as well. And I want to begin with 2 things. One is congratulations on a promotion and the
Thank you.
restructuring there at AOG that I'm just starting to become familiar with. Actually, I can't say familiar. Aware of is a better way to describe it. My understanding right now. And then I think that all of us owe you an awful lot for the 400 services that you have assisted. You have to be, it's the high water mark and then some, probably for anybody that's ever been associated with the Academy. And I think that needs to be not forgotten.
Thank
And
you.
so that's what I wanted to say. And what I wanted to ask is, you mentioned a few things I'd never heard of. And
Okay.
I wonder if there is additional literature about any of those on any of your sites. And for instance, the miniature program really piqued my interest. I mean, I just never heard of that. So that seems like something we need to know a little bit more about and maybe communicate within our class about. And I never heard about being able to attend an instructional session. I mean, that's something that I might just plan a trip up there to do nothing but that. I mean, that is an attractive option. So
Now that's something through General Gillen, so I would recommend doing it sooner rather than later before he's gone, because we don't know what the next guy's gonna say.
I get it. I get it. So thank you for everything. And I think my final question is, you have the ability to measure so many things, and we understand the number of associate members that have gained that membership through being widowed, are widowed or widowered, however that might be. And then you also know who's on Sallyport. And I wonder, do you have a way of understanding the degree to which those people make that option available and are actually logged on with an account? I'll just tell you, our own reality is we've been struggling to find everybody, and as of this afternoon, I think we know we have locked in on everybody we believe that is alive except for 17 people, And there's been a huge, I saw that Joel was on, he helped work on that. There was just a huge push. We cut up all the names that we didn't know, and we worked very hard to find ways to get to them. And I will tell you what I learned on that was that the phone number and the email that you have are almost worthless.
Yeah.
And the thing that works is snail mail to last good address with a please forward option. And we found more people through that than anything else.
And you're absolutely right, because what happened is when we set up CRM and we got information, it was everybody's home phone number. And who has that anymore, right? And then the primary contact passes away and the records don't get updated. And it's wonderful when a classmate calls in the death notification, but they don't often have the spouse's cell phone number. And so it's an ongoing struggle. And that is one of the things that we're trying to get better at. Ed is keeping me on my toes, trying to get to share information. And it's not that we don't want to, it's that we're having a struggle getting it on our end. And quite honestly, it is out of date just for those reasons that I mentioned. So I think that's a good point. Stephanie can certainly help us with cross-referencing associate members with those that are on Sallyport, because they have to, we can tell who has activated the account, right? And if not, then maybe it's a mailing we do that talks about the survivor community and activating the account and the importance of staying in touch with the classmates. And what was happening in previous years is, y'all remember Mary Lee Meyer, may she rest in peace. We miss her every day, but she would send a letter, and then another letter would go, and then another letter would go. And then we got Sue, and then Sue was sending a letter. And all of these documents were just getting pushed aside because they weren't going out at the right time. And so we're working together. We have one postcard now that goes with the condolence card that has a QR code that goes to the memorial support page, and it goes to Sue Irons. So there's two different QR codes there. And with the hopes that they'll reach out and we can update information. But it's certainly something that I will add to my task list to brainstorm with everybody. We have a new VP of IT. He used to be that job at West Point, and so he knows his way around. And he has a lot of energy, and we're very excited to help to connect with him and see if we can get some of these reports a little quicker and a little more accurately. And when you submit your information, because I hope that you'll share what you've gathered back with us, we can then upload it and update ours. And so it, it goes both ways. You get it, we share it, you share it, and then we all have it.
Yeah, you've got everything that we learned, and it's already,
yeah.
and the Excel is repopulated with accurate information to the extent that we have it.
Excellent. And we keep doing that with each other, and it can only get better, but I agree snail mail is the best, hopefully if they haven't moved, but it's an ongoing challenge for sure.
Can I jump in here, please, Barbara?
Sure, Bruce. Nice to see you too.
Well, it's nice to see you. First of all, I would like everybody here to know that the Memorial Support Program is something, if you're giving money to AOG, you can dedicate some of that to memorial support, number one. Number two, and I think we probably all of us here would acknowledge that AOG has changed a lot since when it was in the bowels of Cullom Hall, and it's getting better. And not that it can't, there aren't opportunities for it to get better still, but it's getting better. Second thing is Bob St. Onge, who's our classmate that's responsible for all memorial support, which is different from widows, which is what I do. Memorial support through AOG has maybe memorial support isn't the right word, Barbara, because Bob's doing the articles for TAP.
The memorial articles, yeah.
Memorial articles. So I guess it's not really memorial support, but what Bob told me is actually the company reps that are doing the memorial articles that are responsible for it are getting updates from AOG, which are pretty extensive. In fact, Bob said it's if you go for our entire class, it's over 70 pages. So they go by company, but that's getting updated at least 3 times a year with I guess email, snail mail, phone numbers, contact information. So I think that may be a useful tool if you're not using it. Another point, which Michael brought up, and I think you did too, Barbara, is there are 4 in our class that are doing an AOG trip with the World War II Museum to the Battle of the Bulge next October.
Great. Oh, good.
So there are opportunities there, and of course there are opportunities for for any class. Michael's your class has done this for us to do other things like this, and I mean this one was set up by AOG, but those were some points I wanted to make, and I'll shut up now.
No, you make a very good point, Bruce, because when the memorial article is written, it generates conversation with the family.
Yeah.
And that is a conduit to getting up-to-date information, right? Because they have to sign off on the memorial article. And so that's a great inroad to get current information. Because, you know, I'm preaching to the choir to count on people to self-report. You know, everybody has good intentions. It's like thinking, you know, that everybody knows where your DD 214 is until you need it and then you can't find it, right? It's the same thing. Everybody means to call in. And what else that does when you self-report is when we're on that mission of showing a family special things to their loved one, if we don't have their career highlights or we don't have things that meant something to them while they were at West Point, then we can't share it. So it's all relevant. Looks like Rod went on the bridge there for a second. But it's all relevant and it's all so important. And it's all, again, just about sharing the information and getting the word out.
You know, Barbara,
Barbara.
that brings up another real quick point, and that's about the DD 214, and that is AOG is happy to be a repository of that, and you know, Bob St. Onge has encouraged us in our class to do it, and actually, Barbara, you were a help to me getting it to the right place in AOG, and I got mine in, but that's another tool.
Absolutely. And we used to say it's for the convenience of the family because the cemetery couldn't get it from us, but I've recently learned that they can accept it from us. So that's huge too. So, all right, Debbie McDonald, nice to see you too. How are
Good to
you
see you too,
doing?
Barbara? I'm doing well. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying retirement. Just
Oh,
had our
good.
40th reunion, so
Nice.
I'm sitting on this as the president of the class, so I'm trying to learn everything. But I'm really intrigued with the webinars for the classes for the AOG travel program. Who is?
Okay.
Are you the point of contact for that?
I am. I
Okay.
am. And I've had this new role since, well, they say officially August, but I'm going to say like October. And so what I've done to this point is meet with the 5 travel partners that we have and learn what they do and what they will do for us. One of them would even go so far as to put your class crest on the brochure, if that would help to promote it, you know, and like I said, the webinars and whatnot. But if there's a particular area that your class talks about that they want to go to together, you know, we could bring that to them. They all have a list of tours and the list is out, I guess, for 2026, but they're asking me to pick places for 2027. I'm like, 2027? Okay. And so if you're thinking about where you might want to go in 2027, let me know because we've got, and then there's a grad who is a travel agent who does cruises and he wants to get on board as a travel partner as well too. So yeah, let me
Great.
know.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'll get back on that thing. You're talking about Andres there, I think, Barbara. And a number in our class have, in fact, there are some in our class right now that are on a cruise on the Mississippi with Viking. And a number in our class have done a number of Viking cruises. Our next one is to Norway next year, and then we're actually doing the Western Mediterranean in 2027. So
Nice. That's great. And I don't know if Randy is on still, but I think class of 84 has a trip too. It was either 84 or 86, I think. But, whatever it is, it's a great off reunion year type of, and there's really all price levels too. We actually had 2 people that booked a trip. It was $25,000 a person. I'm like, can we sell a few more of those? Because I want to go on that trip. But yeah, so we're very excited. There's so much potential. And in terms of Barry, you mentioned the miniatures. So having a hospitality background, when I saw these 2 people walking around AOG aimlessly, or I thought aimlessly, I said, "Hey, can I help?" And they're like, "Oh, we're the architects for the renovation." I'm like, "Oh, well, here's what I want." And so I totally laid out my vision for the miniatures case, and that's when I learned that there is actually a historical case with uniforms and things being planned that will rotate in and out. I'm like, well, I don't want to rotate. I want to be permanent. And we might change up the video, the sound messaging, but I want it permanent. And then they wrote it down. And so if you write it down, I'm taking that as it's going to happen. So that'll be something that you see more about in 2026. Anybody have
Barbara.
an idea for member services? Oh, sorry. Go
Barbara.
ahead, Randy.
Hey, Barbara, sorry, I'm still here. I'm
Good.
having a issue with my video. Anyway, hey, I just have one that's coming your way. I just want to give you a heads up. Paul Mahoney from our class just passed away. And I think his widow, Glenn, is going to contact you probably tomorrow.
Okay.
And but I think this is a pretty cool one. What she wants to do is time it for the Army-Navy lacrosse game in April. And she thinks that's something that Paul would really like to
Yeah,
have
he was a big
everybody up there.
lacrosse player.
Yeah, he was a lacrosse player. Yeah.
Great. Yeah, we love to partner with lacrosse and rugby, and they love to have us down there, and that'd be great. That's exactly the time that we want to give to the families.
Yeah. Yeah. I know y'all are amazing. We really appreciate what you're doing so much. Gosh.
It's such a privilege. It really, and honestly, from the bottom of my heart, it's my way of serving because I never did. So that's how I view it. And I want to just take these other opportunities to serve our alumni and through these other new programs and any ideas that people have, and just, develop them and keep making AOG valuable, so many people are working so hard at it, and I'm lucky that I can just be in a position of giving service and not asking for anything. To Bruce's point, yes, we're happy to receive donations to memorial support, and people have been very generous, but I don't have to be the one that asks for that. So I'm very happy to be on that side of the table.
Awesome.
Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you all so much. This was a really fruitful conversation, and thank you for all your questions. That really helped to enhance the conversation. So I'm going to drop in the chat right now. It's a form, a feedback form on potentially upcoming topics or things that we could do better, what you enjoyed. So any feedback you have for us is much appreciated. I'm also going to email all of you tomorrow with the recording. I apologize for starting the recording a little late, but this is something that you can distribute to your classes too. And let's see, I think there was one other one. And then our next webinar is going to be December 16th at 12 p.m. So a little different. We usually do evenings, but this one will be in the middle of the day. And this one is going to be featuring our 50-year affiliate program. Our guest speakers will be Dr. Forrest Crane from the class of 75 and the newly graduated, newly married class president for 2025, Catherine Metz. And they'll be talking about the 50-year affiliate program and their partnership and sharing some of their best practices. So stay tuned for that. And thank you all for joining us tonight, and go Army.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.